The Blackmagic cameras are truly some of the best budget cinema cameras out there in the market. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about why you might want to pick or not pick the Pocket 6K in 2023. And I will also be talking about the 6K Pro if it's worth the extra money by the end of this video. The image you get out of this camera for the price point is a steal compared to the other cameras that are at this price point. You know, the image has this very organic, natural feel to it, and that's actually a characteristic of some of the ARRI cameras. Now, I'm not saying the camera levels up to the ARRIs, but that organic feel, I think it comes quite close to it. When I released the stills of a movie project that we shot with this camera in 2021, we actually had people asking us if we had used the Alexa to shoot our project, but no, it was the Blackmagic 6K. And speaking of similarities with the ARRI cameras, the user interface, the menu system, oh, it is simple, easy to understand, anybody can use it. Sony and Panasonic, well done. The codec options are great as well. You get 12-bit Blackmagic RAW and 10-bit ProRes. That's more than enough to meet your color grading needs, you know, so you can really push your color grade without the fear that you're going to break your image or it's going to get degraded or anything like that. Dual native ISOs. If you intend to, or you actually do a lot of filming in low light situations, you're going to love this camera. It has a dual ISO of 400 and 1250. Blackmagic says it's 3200, but if you've used the camera before, it's 1250. ISO 400 and 1250. So at ISO 1250, your image is as clean as it would be at ISO 400 or even ISO 100. Do bear in mind though that when you switch over to 1250, you would notice a dramatic change in how the camera handles the highlights. So just bear that in mind. It has never really been a problem for me, but it's something that you should know. So in case you're going to be filming a bare bulb, know that if you switch to 1250, the way it handles the highlights is just going to blow out everything. It's also EF mount, so you have quite a wide range of lenses to choose from. So whether it's cinema lenses or photography lenses, you're covered. Media, let's talk media. You actually have three options. You can record in SD cards, CFast cards, and SSDs. So you actually have some flexibility and you're not stuck with only one type of media card. And it also helps in case you're on a budget and you don't have the money for CFast cards. You can use your good old SD cards, or you can get yourself a nice SSD like this. This is actually a 1 terabyte SSD and it would meet all your needs. Now, lastly, and a tiny favorite of mine, the focus peaking. The focus peaking on this camera is actually really good. I think it's one of the best that I've used. So having focus peaking that I can rely on is super important for me, and I can rely 100% on this thing. So most of my shoots require that I operate by myself, so I don't have the luxury of having a focus puller or pulling focus for me. So having focus peaking that I can rely on 100% is very important to me. And whenever I'm shooting with this camera, I am always nailing my focus 100% because it's really good. And then combine that with the 5-inch screen at the back, which is quite big, so you're really able to see your image and you'll be much more confident in the shots that you're taking. Now let's talk about some of the drawbacks and some of the reasons why you might not want to pick this camera. It's worth noting though that this is a cinema camera, and cinema cameras are designed to have a superb image more than anything else. So if you're looking for things like autofocus and IBIS, now you sabi, Alexa and the Sony Venice, they don't have autofocus or IBIS, so I don't know why you're looking for it here. Accessories, you will need a better battery solution and perhaps an external monitor, but we're going to get into that. Just know that filming with this camera straight out of the box is not ideal. You might need to buy some very essential accessories to be able to film with this camera properly. No gimbals. Now I know a lot of people film with this camera on a gimbal, and I did use the Pocket 4K with the Ronin M and the Ronin S, but I hated it. I actually don't like one-handed gimbals generally, and so I've never bothered using any gimbal at all with the 6K. I don't want to have to start dealing with powering the camera because the battery is actually trash. I don't want to have to start dealing with powering the camera with the battery of the gimbal or strapping a battery to the handle of the gimbal. I don't want all that stress. And also my own gimbal is the old Ronin M, and the form factor of the Blackmagic Pocket cameras is quite weird, and so it never balances properly on that gimbal. Add that with the 16 to 35mm lens. That lens is heavy. The motors would just, the gimbal would just all out. No autofocus. Again, it's a cinema camera. The Alexa does not have autofocus. Stop looking for autofocus here, okay? But if autofocus is important for you and the line of work that you do, then you might want to stay away from this camera. Same goes for IBIS. However, it does have gyroscopic stabilization, which is actually amazing. It's just that when you're filming, you can't see the final result. It's until you get into the edit, that's when you see what the stabilized image looks like. So that's the drawback, but do know that you can actually get some stabilized shots with this camera, and you might also be limited to doing that in DaVinci Resolve. I don't know if Premiere Pro offers that gyro stabilization. No articulating or flip screen. The screen is pretty much straight on at the back. Now, this isn't too much of a drawback, but trust me, when you need to get some low angle shot, you will remember that this camera does not have it, and you will start wishing that it did. So if you get a lot of low angle shots, probably you do a lot of travel videos, you might want to stay away from this camera and probably go with the 6K Pro. The battery life is trash, as you must know by now. You should get a V-mount battery power solution, and you will not have to worry about power anymore with this camera. I've filmed corporate documentaries, movies with a V-mount, and it usually takes me for the entire day. Whether or not I'm shooting in 4K or 6K, just my one V-mount battery usually takes me for the entire day of shoot, and I don't have to worry about running out of power or anything like that. I am going to be doing a separate video where I show you my rig, my smaller rig, and my a little bit more bulky rig for documentaries, corporate, and narrative work. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, now would be a good time to do that, and hit the bell icon. Make sure you hit the bell icon so that you actually get notified when I release that video. Storage and editing. Editing 6K Blackmagic RAW footage can be stressful on any system. So if you know you do not have a decent system, you might want to factor in proxies into your workflow, or film in 4K ProRes. But if you say no, it must be 6K Blackmagic RAW, and you're not ready to do proxies and you do not have a good system, don't buy this camera. Okay, filming 6K RAW at minimum compression can be quite heavy, so 1 terabyte will not be sufficient for any kind of work that you think you're going to be doing. For most of my work personally, I either film in 6K 12:1 or 8:1 compression, or I film in 4K 5:1 or 8:1 compression. The file sizes are still large, but it's manageable for me and the type of work that I do. Wedding filmmakers. Now let's talk about the 6K Pro. Should you upgrade or should you buy? Internal ND filters and the flip out screen. That's it. That's the major difference between this 6K and the 6K Pro. Yes, the 6K Pro also has the option to buy the EVF, but I honestly don't care much for it. So it really boils down to the flip out screen and the internal NDs. If you have the extra cash, please go for the 6K Pro. It might not seem like much on paper. Oh, it's just ND filter. Oh, it's just a flip out screen. But trust me, when it comes to you actually filming with the camera, you will thank me and you will not regret spending that extra money to get the 6K Pro. If you already have the original 6K, then it might not be worth upgrading to the 6K Pro, because you can very easily get an ND filter, a variable ND filter, to go in front of your lens, and you can very easily put up an external monitor on your camera to serve your low angle needs. Now, if the cost of getting these two items is way less than the cost of getting the 6K Pro, then I think you should do that. But if for some reason where you are is going to cost roughly the same amount of money, then you might as well just go with the 6K Pro. On a final note, and very important, you should not be getting this camera if it is your first camera. This camera should probably be your second camera, or maybe your third. Your first camera should be a whole lot more versatile to serve whatever needs. So it should be able to do the autofocus. It should have the IBIS. I still use my Sony a6300 till date. It can go on my gimbal. It has autofocus. It's small and lightweight. I can travel very easily with it. The battery life is not so good, but it's way better than the Blackmagic. So yes, that would be my advice. Get a much more run and gun camera that you can use for virtually everything with as little hassle as needed. And when you feel it's time, you can now upgrade to the Blackmagic. But then what do I know? Your situation is different. You know what you need, you know what you want, go for it. This video has been helpful to you. Do check out my other camera review of the Blackmagic URSA, yep, the original one, and see if you should or might want to consider picking it up in 2023. Smash that like button and bye for now.